That right there is the sounds of the war in Israel versus Hamas, and that's the sounds of the bombs going off. These countries have had many arguments in the past. This goes back to a long time ago. They've been fighting over this land called the Gaza Strip. Israel wants it because it's their holy land promised by Abraham and God. In their belief in Islam, Islam is the religion of Palestine, and they've been just wanting the strip to basically say your God is not your good God.
The Hamas was formed in the late 1987. It was formed as like a Palestinian branch of Muslim Brotherhood, and it supports Palestinian territories and their robust socio-political structures inside of Palestine and near the Gaza Strip.
Israel and Palestine has had many conflicts in the past, military conflicts. The most notable ones have been in 1948 to 49, and then they had one in 1956.
In 1967, Israel and Palestine fought again, same as in 1973.
In 1982, 2006, and the most recent in 2023, they have all been many conflicts, and Israel has always pulled through, so we're hoping that they can again.
And then all these wars have been won by Israel so far, and we still don't know about the one going on right now. So like I said earlier, this war mainly started because of the Holy Land and the Gaza Strip, and this war basically started because the UN divided Palestine, which had the Gaza Strip at the time, in 1947. They divided it into two different parts, one more Jewish, one more Arab, and the Arab wanted to take back the Jewish part to restain Palestine, and that's why they went to war and trying to send off bombs. But these bombs are getting intercepted by the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is basically...
The Iron Dome is a missile rocket system that uses AI to predict where a rocket's going to hit, and if it's in a populated or a sensitive area, they will intercept that missile with another missile so that it destroys, and it won't hit its directed target.
This Iron Dome has protected many people in the Israel territory from getting bombed because it's intercepted many missiles.
Dang, the Iron Dome is crazy, but you know what's more crazy is how U.S. stands with Israel. They want Israel to defend its people and for all of this to stop.
The United States firmly backs Israel against the Hamas. They have been giving them many things such as munitions and have been aiding them in trying to get the people in the directed areas out of the war on the Gaza Strip.
But I agree with the U.S. because I think Israel is getting attacked and they should defend themselves. Noah said earlier how the United States stands.
I feel like I support Israel because I feel like Palestine is very greedy for wanting their land back, but it was split between all the nations and they all agreed on it. So I feel like it's just greedy by Palestine to want it back.
Yeah, I definitely think it's bad that Hamas would do a completely unprovoked attack and start this very brutal war and just be sending bombs and bombs and bombs. But it's good the United States is helping them in any aid that they can.
And I also think the Jewish people should be able to have right to their holy land in the Gaza Strip. This Gaza Strip is where many of the fighting's going on, where many people are losing their life. An example of this is the first attack was at a festival in Gaza.
Yeah, around 2,600 bodies were found dead at the Nova Festival site.
And this is what many people think is the first attack from Hamas.
For the 2023 attack in October.
So another example of people fearing for their lives is more than 1 million Palestinians and roughly half of Gaza's population have fled their homes into North and Gaza City after Israel told them to evacuate. The airstrikes early Thursday continued across the entire territory, including the areas in the south that Israel has declared safe zones. Another story of this is when more than 1 million Palestinians and roughly half of Gaza's population have fled their homes in North and Gaza City after Israel told them to evacuate. The airstrikes early Thursday continued across the entire territory, including the areas in the south that Israel has declared the safe zones.
Even these safe zones are no longer safe to the American eyes. Joe Biden has recently stated that traveling anywhere in that area in the Middle East, anywhere in that area, has been deemed unsafe, and you have to be very cautious. Americans that are already there, he has issued to say, be very cautious and try to return home.
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't go in those zones due to the armed conflict going on right now, and the death toll is rising by the day, and it's around 1,400 right now.
There's been many stories of Americans. There's actually been 8 Americans that have been killed in Israel from the Hamas bombings. Reported.
If I was one of the U.S. citizens, I would stay completely away from there, and if at all possible, trying to evacuate the area with extreme caution to make sure you have your life and that you are safe.
A way to support Gaza and stay safe is to donate at www.anera.org. That's www.anera.org. That would be the best way to support and keep your lives and stay safe.
On another note, let's talk about World War III. So this conflict could cause World War III in many ways, because Israel is supported into the UN and Palestine is supported through BRICS.
Yeah, they're
Russia.
supported through Russia, China, and most of the communists like North Korea.
The other countries for the UN, which supports Israel, is the US. You would probably know most of them, like England, Canada, most of those kind of countries. Most of the allied countries in World War II. Most of Central Europe. And yeah, I forget, does Brazil?
I'm not sure. I think Brazil
might be neutral. I don't know.
But I know that most of the communist countries, such as North Korea and China, are supporting the Hamas in this war because they are supporting Russia.
And they support going against the UN because they do not like the Democrats.
Yeah, they do not like the U.S. dollar in general.
They just don't like democracy.
And these countries that we are talking about right now would be going against each other if World War III were to go on because of these conflicts. So if World War III were to happen, it would not be good for any average citizen in any country because they would get drafted and most of them would lose their lives for a war that doesn't really matter because it's not their country that they're fighting for. They're fighting for another country. And me, I would not want to get drafted. I would try to avoid it if at all possible.
Another reason for not getting drafted, for example, in World War II, almost 5% of soldiers died that went to war. And this will be at odds for all of us, as this war would probably go on for many years. And
yeah, me personally, I'm not trying to be part of that statistic.
Because that statistic is 5 in 100. That means 5 out of every 100 soldiers died that were in the battle for the USA. And this number would probably be higher due to modern day bombs, modern day guns, and modern day nukes. They'll probably be used more in World War III if that does happen.
So yes, we use modern weapons now, but sometimes we still go back to the same strategies and things, which is an attack, and we plan for that attack. Like the Hamas, there are videos released on their social medias of them doing attacks, and by the position of the sun and all the things that people have figured out that those were filmed over a year ago before they were put out on their propaganda and before they actually did the attack on the 7th. This has been obviously planned along, and they made mock cities and used paragliders, and this was a very strategically planned attack on the people of Gaza and Israel. And they were definitely being ruthless because there are videos of them shooting into bathrooms without even looking to see if people are trying to surrender, just being ruthless and obviously murdering several people. And I think it all added up to 260 dead bodies on site after the whole attack was over.
Being honest, my take on this whole thing is that I think Israel is in the right because, first of all, Hamas is somewhat a terrorist group, kind of like the Taliban in Afghanistan. And so Hamas, there's many stories of them being ruthless to Israel children and women when they raid the streets. Like, they executed 50 babies last in one of their raids of a village on the Gaza Strip. So that's why I think that Israel's in the right, because Hamas is more of like just kill. We don't care about what's really happening. They just care about winning the war. They don't care about the civilians that die. They don't care about anyone who really dies. They just care about the land that they get and who wins the war.
Back to when we were talking about wars, I don't really want wars. I wouldn't want war because I don't want to be drafted for a country that isn't the USA, one that I stand with and that I live in. Because I've had past grandparents who were in World War I and World War II. One of them got captured and had to hide his wedding ring in his sock just so they didn't steal it. He made it home safe after being captured, and it took him a while to get home. I had two grandparents who were in World War II, and I wouldn't want to be in their shoes going through all of that and the tough times that they went through during the war. They had to see many of their friends and family die as they went to war with them, and I just wouldn't want to be in that position where I'm seeing my friends fall before my very eyes as I'm fighting for a country that isn't the USA. Because the only country that I really stand for is the USA, but I will support Israel because I feel like it is their right to have that land because their land is a part of their religion, and I believe very highly in my religion, and I pray every single night, so I understand people wanting to fight for their own religion.
On the same note of having parents in war, I had great uncles and aunts that had to go into the Holocaust and go into concentration camps. Many of them died in the Holocaust. Only around 2 survived the Holocaust. Both of them have died. One just died recently in the last months. Her name was Aunt Caroline. And I had to hear she has cried when she has to hear the stories of Holocaust. And I do not want any kind of situation to happen again with the Holocaust or anything like that. Because the war puts trauma on people. And I don't want anyone to have trauma, especially in the family, or have any kind of family deaths. And another relative, my grandfather went through Vietnam, and he also had many experiences with trauma post-war from hearing loud noises go off like fireworks. He, especially at an old age, he had to deal with many traumas, including in the war.
On the note of trauma, you can definitely get many things from like PTSD, such as depression, anxiety, etc. And my great-grandfather, I didn't personally know him, but my mother said whenever any like loud noise would go off in the house, he would immediately just go into this like shock state, and sometimes they'd have to take him to the hospital because it'd be so bad just because he was in World War II. And I definitely think that it's a very traumatic thing to go through a war, even if you're just a pedestrian or anybody that is in a war, because in a war zone, because it can definitely affect your mental state. I personally feel that we should try and stay away from war and try and solve things peacefully, and war shouldn't even be a result, but if it is, have it be a last resort. And I really don't think that we should have to plan for it or have all these things, but like that's just what humans go after, is like that's just part of the human race, is to try and like attack and take over because we want more.
And to tie this all back together of the trauma and stuff, basically we're just trying to say that we do not want the Hamas versus Israel war to really happen and take cause, because we don't want people dying, we don't want people dealing with trauma, we just don't want any kind of war because that could lead to many bad things.
Yeah, to go off of what Joey was saying, we should definitely try and stay away from it, but it is happening. And I personally support Israel because they are fighting for their religion, and I would definitely fight for my religion. And I think that they're in the right. And Hamas has asked for a peace treaty, but Hamas asked for the war, and Israel basically responded by saying, no, you asked for it, now you're going to get what you asked for.
And also, to follow up on that, Hamas, their reason behind war, if we didn't make it clear, is basically they think that they were oppressed by Israel for many years. I don't really know if that's true or not, but that's what they think is going on, and they want to take land back. They just don't want to be oppressed by Israel in their thoughts.
I feel like the Palestinians and all of them are a little bit greedy for trying to get the land back, because their land was taken away, but the way they're trying to get it back isn't through an easy way where nobody really dies. It's through mass destruction, and if that could end up in World War III with a whole bunch of countries just picking sides and people lose lots of lives over land that was given away thousands of years ago. And so I feel like it's greedy to want that now. They wanted it back a while ago, but they did it still the same way they're doing it now, which is going through war. And I feel like that's the wrong way to do this.
And thanks for listening to this podcast.